Morning, live on Fox Local and on YouTube. We have a lot of live streaming coverage for you coming up of these protests across America. It's one of those days we are seeing a number of these No Kings protests, about 2,600 of them, in fact, at least, that are scheduled around the country. I can pull up a map for you here, just kind of give you an idea a little bit of the scale of these protests. This is from nokings.org, the map that they have on their website that's showing a dot for each of these protests across the country. Let me go to Florida here and see if we can zoom in a little bit and give you a little bit of an idea. We know there are protests all across the state and around our area as well. We are going to check in just a couple of minutes with Fox 35's Matt Trezza, who is live at the protest in downtown Orlando, which is just getting underway at 10 o'clock. Later in this half hour, we're going to check in with the Seminole County Democrats hosting a protest in Castleberry. We know there's another large event planned for Daytona Beach that is also already underway. That one started about half an hour ago. Other protests that we're going to check in on coming up in a little bit: Cocoa in Brevard County, and then Clermont in Lake County. Both of those start at 11, and we will check in with the organizers there and see how things are going there coming up in just a little bit. We are also going to have some response from Republicans responding to this push today, pushing back and protesting against President Donald Trump and his policies as well. So we expect to hear from Congressman Randy Fine in our 11 o'clock hour. So we're going to be here with you from 10 to noon on Fox Local and YouTube. We've got a lot to get to and really appreciate you joining us. Also want to give you a live look right now. This is an event in New York City that is going on. So we're not just checking in on Florida. We'll take you to some of the other places as well. Another big event live in Washington, D.C. And here is a live look at one of the protests right now from Sky Fox. In the Tampa area. They have, let's see, they were already in St. Petersburg. This might be the stop. Gulf, let me see. Let me try to find out so I don't tell you wrong where they are. They've been moving a couple of different locations, but this is one in the Bay Area. But let's go ahead and check in now with Fox 35's Matt Trezza, who is live in downtown Orlando right now. And Matt, I know this the event there just getting underway.
Yeah, that's right. Getting underway, but already we've got several thousand people out here in City Hall Plaza. Take a look around. Now, we're at City Hall. We've got on one side of us, we also have the Bohemian Hotel and some office buildings, and then the Dr. Phillips Center to our other side. So that's kind of the square, the plaza, where this is all happening. If you can hear people cheering, it's because first responders are rolling by. There's been a big cheer coming up from the people here whenever first responders roll by, whenever police go by, showing support for the first responders out here. Now, we've got all sorts of people who are dressed up in costumes, a lot of inflatables walking around. We have a lot of people with signs and banners, a lot of people dressed up with T-shirts with their opinions on it, letting people know how they stand on the issue of the administration and some of the policies that they're making. And to talk more about that, to give us their perspective, I'm going to speak with Mary Hartwig. She's been sitting here, sorry to interrupt, with her with this poster and your No Kings T-shirt. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us. Tell me, what brought you out here this morning?
Well, really fear of losing our democracy and our rights, and wanting to stand up and show people that, we love our country and we don't hate it, and, we're not going to stay home, be scared, that, we care about these issues, and we want to show our support for our actual democracy and Constitution.
Sure. Now, this isn't the first No Kings protest that we've had here. Is this the first one you've attended, or have you been to previous ones too?
No, I've been to the previous No Kings and also the immigration one that they had. I think this is the third or fourth one I've been to. And actually, I think this is maybe the smallest crowd.
Are you expecting more people to show up?
Well, I don't know, because I know that they're also at like 5 more locations than there were the last time too. So I'm assuming that sort of distributed people differently than when it was only one location.
Got that. Now, are there any particular policies, any actions the administration's taken that have particularly prompted you to come out here?
Well, I mean, free speech, not following the Constitution. I'm disappointed in Congress giving up their duties to put a check on the presidential powers, and that I feel like, I mean, there isn't anything. Domestic, foreign policies. I'm terribly disappointed in the Supreme Court lost all that. The incredible racism I'm seeing. I mean, it's just one thing after another. The support for billionaires and potential loss of health care. I mean, I have family on Medicare, a 93-year-old dad, and I mean, we're all worried about what's going to be happening.
When you see the other people out here, with their banners, with their flags, does it give you encouragement? What do you think about the turnout?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the reasons I'm here, is because every day you're just assaulted with one horrible story after another that you can't imagine this country has gotten so low so fast, and, the loss of respect we've gained around the world by our actions. It makes you feel better to come here and see there are other people that feel the same way.
Gotcha. And do you think that this will lead to any kind of substantive change?
I do think that the more people stand up and say, no, we're not fooled by what you're telling us, that it'll make them think. I mean, they're already afraid to show up at town halls, and I think they, if it's all they care about is keeping their jobs and their corporate sponsors and, whatever potentially immoral actions they're taking as politicians, that maybe they'll actually do something because they're afraid for their jobs.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for sharing that with me. We're going to stay out here throughout the morning, gathering more perspectives and comments from people that we see in the crowd, and taking a look at things as they develop here. But now we're live in downtown Orlando. Matt Trezza, Garrett, back to you.
All right, Matt, we appreciate that, and we'll check back in with him in just a little bit. Again, just one of many locations that is having these protests across the area today, and again, we'll check in with Matt again in just a little bit. We're getting ready to take our first break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but before we do, let's go ahead and listen in here for a minute. This is one of those events in New York City that is going on right now. Let's go ahead and listen in for a minute.
We are going to take these streets, and if we need to come out every week, we must do so. This is an imperative, folks. What is happening, what we are feeling, what we are experiencing is real. And if we in any way believe that we can slide through this, there are those who say that they are not about politics. Well, let me tell them today that politics is about them. And what these folks are doing in Washington, D.C. is the power grab for the generations. So each and every one, let us be resolved. This is our moment for this generation and future generations to come. No kings. No kings. No kings. No kings. And we will win the victory. Thank you.
That speaker wrapping up in New York City as that event continues. We're going to take a quick break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back with more No Kings protest coverage of these protests across the country in just a couple of minutes. So keep it here on Fox Local and on YouTube.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. Garrett Wymer here, and thanks for joining me live on Fox Local and YouTube on this Saturday morning as we track these protests across America. 2,600 No Kings protests nationwide planned out today. A number of them here in Florida. We're going to get you to as many of them as we can. Let me give you a live look right now. This is in Castleberry, where the protest just got underway a few minutes ago, and you can see a pretty big crowd there. This is lining 1792 there in Castleberry. In fact, coming up in just a little bit, we're going to check in with the Seminole County Democrats, one of the groups that was organizing this particular protest, and we will talk with them and get a view on the ground as well. You can see a number of folks, some holding signs, some other decorations as well. American flag I see there as well. So this is in Castleberry right now. Just a few moments ago, we checked in with Fox 35's Matt Trezza, who is live in downtown Orlando. Second here. And we've got, it looks like they are on the move right now, but a lot of people there as well as they, with signs and flags and costumes even, as we saw. This is in the Tampa area. Again, this is, I believe, in Clearwater, where they are right now, trying to kind of zero in on that location and see where exactly. There's quite a few. Let me pull up my list here. It looks like 9 or so in the Tampa Bay area, St. Pete, Clearwater, a couple in Clearwater, Largo, as well, Bradenton, Plant City. So a number of different ones in that area, as well as in our area. And I showed you the map just a little bit ago. We will pull that up for you coming up again in just a little bit. We know there are also some large events as well in some of the bigger cities across the country. This is live in New York City. Washington, D.C. also expected to have a large event. I'd have to double check. I lost my note of what time that one gets underway. But we will check in on that one as well. And obviously, all of these protests come at a very fraught time in our politics, it seems. This is the kind of second large round of these No Kings protests that we've seen, but I would say it's probably safe and fair to say that things in our political discourse have escalated in the time since, and so in the time since those first ones just several months ago, and so there's our concerns about security and those kinds of things when you're talking about large events like this, and so I want to bring in Jamie Copenhaver, who joins us live now via Zoom, former sheriff's detective and investigators, one of our go-tos when it comes to talking about law enforcement, security, all those kinds of topics. And Jamie, good morning to you. We appreciate you joining us here on Fox 35 News Plus today.
Good to be with you, Garrett. Thank you.
So I was just kind of setting things up and saying, this is our second round of these large, like nationwide protests that we have seen. But it feels like things have certainly changed the atmosphere in our politics since even that first round of protests, however many months ago that was. And so I would imagine when it comes to safety and security of things like this, there was probably even more planning and more preparations this time than even the first time around.
Yeah, we know there are documented over 300 of these nationwide, Garrett, and those are ones that are actually participating in the program and the organized No Kings Day event, right? But here's the issue: you're going to have offsprings of those that are going to go and presumably block roads. At least this is what I'm hearing from law enforcement. Their biggest concern is these individual groups not connected to the actual No Kings event. They're going to go out and basically start blocking roads, get into traffic. And, we've seen that over the past several years, which escalates quickly. So from a law enforcement standpoint, they've been planning for this for a couple of weeks. The No Kings Day event planners have been cooperating with local law enforcement to make sure that event is clean and obviously rid of all the problem makers.
And so, what all goes into making sure that something like this goes off, okay and safely?
You know, law enforcement, it's not a prayer note and let's go do it. They're actually planning, they're coming through social media posts. I know that for a fact in our fusion centers, looking for any potential violent people that may show up. But here's the caveat to that, Garrett. We've seen this time after time after time. The legitimate people that are out, protesting and doing the rally have no intentions of creating violence, but you have these troublemakers that always slip in, and then, they start antagonizing passing by motorists, if you will. We just seen out of New York, there were some rock throwing at one of these events already. So, you've got to plan as best as you can, but it's all about intelligence. The best thing that law enforcement can do is be available, be on standby should one of these events go south, so they can act quickly to tamper that down.
Yeah, Jimmy, you bring up a good point, because we often do talk to these organizers, and they stress as much as they can, not violent, because in something that breaks out in violence kind of goes against what the point they're trying to get across, and distracts from that anyway. But like you said, sometimes there are people who show up, they may antagonize, and then we also just know kind of the heat of the moment. And when you're talking about something like this, it doesn't always necessarily take a whole lot to kind of get something going that otherwise there was no intention or plan of.
Well, we know that out in Texas, Governor Abbott came out yesterday, and he pre-deployed, the Department of Public Safety, the police, and also the National Guard in Austin, Texas. We know that our own governor, Governor DeSantis, came out with a strong statement. If you're going to start creating chaos and you're going to be a problem maker, don't show up, because if you do, we'll have a place for you to sleep for the night. So, these governors in Florida and at least Texas have came out and sent a strong message. If you're a troublemaker, don't show up, you're going to jail, period. And that's what we need. We need a strong message from every leader and every governor in every state, because, Garrett, like you said, there's some legitimate people that believe what they believe, and they have the right to go out, whether you like it or not, and do a rally for the No King's Day. I mean, it's just part of our Constitution, right? But, my fear is we're going to see some antagonizers that it's going to escalate, and hopefully law enforcement's ready to respond to that to stop it.
And my question is, too, when you're talking about opposing viewpoints, you have a lot of folks out there right now, but you may also have some folks who kind of want to counter protest, and so when you have those two opposing sides, as law enforcement, how do you balance everyone's right to be out there and making their voice heard, but also factoring in, hey, we need to make sure things stay safe out here?
Yeah, right. That's a good point, Garrett. Strong presence by law enforcement, and you've got to set those boundaries. If Plan A is on one side of the street and Plan B, which is opposing the No King's Day, you've got to keep those people separated. That is a command presence by law enforcement, the troops showing up and, sort of putting a cordon around that area to keep both sides from clashing, right? We've seen this with the ICE detention centers. Now we have counter protesters are going out to the ICE detention centers opposing the protesters. So a couple of those have turned violent. A couple of them, they've had some fights and some skirmishes, but law enforcement always gets in there and separates the two groups to prevent any further violence. So let's hope we don't see that today, but I can assure you that the police in Florida are ready for that.
All right, Jamie Cobenhaber, former sheriff's detective and investigator, we appreciate you joining us. We'll check back in with you in a little bit, Jamie, and I'll be in touch with you about that. So I appreciate your time this morning, and we'll talk again soon.
Thank you, Garrett.
We're getting ready to take a break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but let me go ahead and give you a live look. This is in Castleberry at the protest there, big crowd out there. We're getting ready to talk with Dylan Kelly from the Seminole County Democrats, who is one of the people who helped put this one together. We will chat with him on the other side of this break, so keep it right here on Fox 35 News Plus. We have much more coverage to come.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. Garrett Wymer here, and I have Fox 35 News anchor and reporter Hannah McKenzie joining me live now. Hannah, good to see you this morning.
Hi there. Good morning, Garrett. I'm glad you're up. You're with us this morning. We just got off the air.
Yeah.
And now we're delving right into it.
You just got off the air, and now you're in here with me and here for the next hour and a half or so as we continue to check in on these protests across America. I know y'all were covering it this morning as well. This is something we're seeing not just here in Florida, but across the country.
Yeah, and there have been messages, there have been warnings, there have been, you name it, from different politicians, whether they're at the federal level down to the local level. We've heard, a number of people speaking out about these protests, whether in favor or against, and it's interesting to see how it's all playing out today.
Yeah, and we've seen some big crowds already in some of the events. A lot of them have kind of different start times. So I know the one in Daytona Beach started at 9:30. At 10 o'clock, we saw downtown Orlando and also Castleberry start. Let me give you a live look right now at the one in downtown Orlando. We checked in with Fox 35's Matt Trezza just a few minutes ago. You can see a lot of folks in costumes. We've seen a number of flags and signs as well. But I want to check in now with Dylan Kelly, who is the communications chair for the Seminole County Democratic Party, and he joins us live now from the protest in Castleberry. And Dylan, good morning. We appreciate you joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So just first talk to us about how the turnout is out there right now and what you're seeing there in Castleberry.
We initially, when we were planning the protest, we expected maybe about 500 people to come. That's usually been par for the course for, we've done a number of these protests at this specific location too. And from my estimates, we definitely have exceeded the 2,000 protesters that we had come out in June for the first No Kings protest. The streets, I wish I could get you a shot of how many people are here, but it's just so noisy you wouldn't be able to hear me. The streets are just filled to the brim with people right here on 1792 and Triplet Lake Drive for several blocks.
What's the message, Dylan? What are you hoping to get across, and what are some of the signs that we're seeing there? What are some of the things that y'all are chanting or saying? What is the message that you are sending out from that spot in Castleberry?
Well, the message we want to send out is pretty much in solidarity with the message of every No Kings protest. I like to quote Thomas Paine, one of our founding fathers, and saying that in America, we believe that the rule of law is king, not the president, and certainly not President Trump. And we honestly believe that President Trump has not fulfilled his oath to keeping faith with the Constitution of the United States. We believe he is overreaching in his executive authority on a number of fronts. Firstly, on the military occupations of several cities throughout the United States. Also in the many tariffs that he is imposing that are raising the cost of living for millions of working people. Also the declining to extend healthcare subsidies that millions of people rely on. We stand against a number of things, and many of the signs here are basically in that vein.
Dylan, hi there. I'm so glad you're out there for us today. We appreciate you being there. I know you mentioned the No Kings Day protest back in June. It's still early right now, so I know things are still getting underway, but are you noticing any big differences in addition to maybe a larger audience or a larger crowd than what we saw in June?
The main difference, obviously, is we have the addition of animal costumes. Like I said, I wish I could get you more of a shot of the protest, but it would just be so noisy because everybody's just making all this noise. The inflatable animal costumes definitely have caught on here. We had a couple that I just talked to that were in inflatable koala costumes. And we are also seeing people, not only folks that live here, many, local Seminole County residents, but we have folks that have been visiting family who even came out to support us. They came in bright and early. We had tentatively said that we wanted to start this at 10, but people were already here at about 9 a.m. And people have just been trickling in since, and people are still coming in. I'm in the parking lot and I'm still watching people come in and out.
Dylan, we are getting a live look from the ground perspective as well, so we can see those huge crowds arriving. I'm glad you brought up the inflatable costume. Some people might be a little confused to hear that. So this isn't, talking about Halloween. This is an effort by organizers to kind of stay away from the stereotypical anti-government, black mask, face hidden. It's more of a light-hearted nod, just an effort to make this look, not like a scary protest, but more of a light-hearted, keeping everything peaceful, correct?
Yes, that is absolutely true. One of the things that we want to demonstrate here is that the animal costumes, when they were initially, used in Portland by a number of protesters, were meant to signify just how ridiculous this crackdown of the Trump administration across America really is. They're deploying and using federal money, by the way. It's not cheap what they're doing here. So if you're, for fiscal responsibility in the government, it's a very expensive thing to send out, the National Guard to suppress people in costumes that you would find at an infant's birthday party. That's really the case. We're trying to make the statement that we are peaceful. Everything that we do and we stand is in the name of peace and in the name of justice. There's no violent intent here whatsoever. We're out here just to have fun and to save our democracy while we're doing it.
And that's just, one of the claims that protesters are picking up this morning. We've got the government shutdown, the federal furloughs. We've got a lot of things that people are out there, like Dylan, protesting this morning, Garrett.
Yeah, Dylan, we appreciate it. How long are y'all going to be out there today with your protest?
We stated the intent to be out till about noon. That's pretty much in line with just about every protest across the country. But we know some folks are probably going to stick around a little bit longer than that. But officially, we're going to call it quits at around noon. But like I said, folks may be sticking around for a little while longer than that.
All right, sounds good. Well, we appreciate you joining us, giving us a look at that protest that is going on live in Castleberry. And thanks for joining us on Fox 35 News Plus this morning.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So you could, hear him share what they're hoping to get across. We've seen some of those costumes, that he was talking about also at the protest in downtown Orlando. That's where Fox 35's Matt Trezza is right now, and I know he was dialed in a minute ago and was having a little bit of trouble hearing us. Let's see if we can check in with him. Matt, are you able to hear me now?
We have all these amazing things that we are doing. We have art parties, we have classes.
It sounds like they're getting things underway right now.
Yeah, I think they're hearing a speaker there at the moment, and so we will see what if we can check in with Matt here in just a second.
Maybe, Garrett, while you're trying to figure that out, I mean, I can, say a quick debrief here. Obviously, we are checking in on live events happening not only here in Orlando, but across the country today. We do want to let you know, we apologize for any, signage you may see that might have curse words or anything like that. Obviously, we can't filter all of that from the studio here as we're working, but just keep that in mind. This could be, you might see some curse words, you might see some offensive words. Those obviously do not reflect our opinions, but you might see those sorts of things throughout protests throughout the country. Hundreds of thousands of people expected to pull out and arrive to all of these protests countrywide. We have several happening here in Florida. Last check, I saw 80 in Florida scheduled, and as you heard from one of our people who just called in, Dylan, he's at the Castleberry location now. He thinks numbers are going to well surpass that showed up to the June No King's Day protest back then. So very interesting to see how this is all transpiring, Garrett.
Yeah, and we're still having some trouble getting in touch with Matt. We'll check in with him in just a little bit, but I do want to go ahead and bring in one of our political analysts, and Rishi Baga, who is also a Democratic consultant, and we appreciate you joining us this morning here live on Fox 35 News Plus.
Hi, Garrett. Thanks for having me.
Always good to talk with you, and we appreciate you joining us this morning. I mentioned this earlier in our coverage, how this is the second day, really, of our, the second time that we have seen these large nationwide No Kings protests in the past few months. And I just want to get your take on how things are a little bit different now than they were the first time around politically.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, I think for a lot of folks who are coming out to these rallies, I think they feel a little powerless. I mean, this is really one of those most American things, the most American right you have, which is to protest. And if they're seeing a government that they feel increasingly they have less control over. We have all three branches of government controlled basically by one party. And so at least folks on the left side of the spectrum, they really feel the need to have their voice heard. And this is kind of their way to do it. The first time around, there were about 5 million people to show up. I think they're expecting a little bit more than that this time around. And I think that's really in part because this was the one way to have their voice heard. I mean, there's a few developments since that time, right? That time it was a military parade, which I think was the impetus of the protests. This time around, you've got federal troops deployed in several cities throughout the country. You have large ICE raids that are happening all over the country as well. And you have a government shutdown, which makes folks feel even more powerless. So I think the combination of factors is really what culminated in having this second No King's Day protest.
I want to get your thoughts on what we heard in a comment from President Trump saying, talking about this, responding saying, "I am not a king." We heard Speaker Mike Johnson call this, I believe, the Hate America rally. How do you respond when you hear those things?
Yeah, I mean, look, to Speaker Johnson, I can only say to me, these are folks who love America, and I say that because fundamentally, the most American thing you can do is protest, right? That's ingrained in our DNA. It's been part of our DNA since the early days. It is those protests against a king over in England who we thought was overreaching at that time, which led to this country that we all love. And so I think that I really would disagree with that sort of characterization. I think these folks love America. They want to see a different America, and certainly we all disagree on what America looks like and what it should look like. But I think while that may be a nice nice theme to coin it, the reality is these are folks who want to see their country go a different direction.
What do you think is the main message here, and do you think that protests like this are an effective way to get that across?
Yes, absolutely. I think the main message really is government overreach. When it looks like so again, I'll move back to federal troops being deployed in cities throughout the country. That's something that kind of violates historical norms. It's not something that is regularly that we're used to seeing. I was up in Washington, D.C. I went to school up there, and there are troops all over the subway system and out on the streets. That's just not something we're accustomed to seeing in this country. And so certainly that feels a lot like government overreach. I think, I'm a lawyer as well. I think that there's some questionable legal basis for those type of deployments as well. So when you're seeing these types of symbols of a federal takeover, naturally I think people are going to protest against that when they see what is seen as government overreach. So I think that's really the main takeaway of these types of protests and the organizers of the protests. I think it is effective. I do think it's effective. And again, I'll go back to some of these original themes, right? Our government comes from the people. And so if the people show their discontent with the government, I think that matters. I think that influences our leaders. And I certainly think it will influence Congress. We are in the middle of a government shutdown. At this point, there's really no Republicans who are willing to negotiate with Democrats. I think that these types of things where people show their discontent to their elected leaders should hopefully push their leaders into coming up with some sort of compromise that can have our government reopen.
All right. Well, Rishi Baga, a political analyst, always appreciate your perspective, and thanks for your time this morning here on Fox 35 News Plus. Good talking with you. Great talking to you too, Garrett. Thanks so much for having me. All right, and we are going to take a quick break here on Fox 35 News Plus. We still have a lot to get to. We're going to hear from, we're hearing from some more protest organizers coming up in just a little bit, but we're also going to hear from some Republicans as well, giving us kind of that counter perspective. We're going to hear from Congressman Jimmy Petronas, who held a virtual news conference yesterday. And so we'll play you those remarks. We're also, in about 20 minutes or so, supposed to be speaking with Congressman Randy Fine live here on the program, going to join us via Zoom. So we're going to take a quick break right now, but we'll be right back with more after this.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. Oh, and we just lost our live picture. Welcome back in. This is certainly the part of being live here.
It happens.
we just had a great view, aerial view of. They were outside the Colonial Center in Heathrow,
Yes.
right off International Parkway and 46 there, and there was a big crowd.
We heard from a demonstrator in Castleberry that they were seeing numbers far exceeding what they did see in June when they had the last No King's Day protest. That live look from Heathrow, I mean, at one point the camera was zoomed in and I was like, okay, there's a few people out there. They've got their signs. They zoomed out, Garrett, and I was like, whoa, that was way more people out there than I was expecting. Yeah. Wow.
So we're seeing big crowds at these protests across the country. I want to go ahead and check in again with Matt, who is in downtown Orlando and joins us live now via Zoom. Had some trouble with the a cell phone connection, which sometimes happens in big crowds. But Matt, how are things going? I know we checked in with you about 40 minutes ago. Is the crowd continuing to get bigger? Are people still showing up out there?
You can hear me now. The crowd has gotten significantly bigger since you checked in with me last. So I would say, because we have people who are doing presentations right now from the steps of Orlando City Hall, and when we walked toward that, so that we could hear what they were saying, it was a pretty easy walk. When I turned around to come away from that area to this spot, which is a little further away, thought we might have some stronger signal here, there were a lot more people that I had to, get past in order to get to this point. I would say the crowd has probably doubled in the last half hour since you checked in with me. I'm going to turn around my camera now so you can see what we're looking at here. And this is kind of a shot of how things are looking at City Hall Plaza in downtown Orlando. I would say there are several thousand people out here, most of whom have some kind of something with them, some sign, something on their t-shirt, something that's associated with being out here this morning, and the message that they're trying to give about their dissatisfaction with the Trump administration and its policies. We talked with somebody last time who said she thought it was a smaller crowd than previously here the first time they had a no protest, and she said that was primarily because there are more of these happening, and perhaps more people are distributed throughout those as opposed to being in one kind of concentrated space right here in downtown Orlando. So we've got, I'd say, several thousand people out here. They're listening to the speaker right now. Again, it's on the City Hall steps. But there's a lot of outside of the kind of the center of where the action is, where people are listening to her speak. There are people playing music. There's people talking to the real family atmosphere here. There's a cheer from the crowd whenever we see first responders go by. This stretch of Orange Avenue is pretty big for travel by quick responders, just because it is on direct path from downtown Orlando to Orlando Health Hospital. So there's a cheer that happens every time a responder goes by, or a firework, firefighter, police, ambulance, anything like that. There is, as you can see across the street, there a fairly heavy police presence from Orlando Police. They're all standing on the other side of that ordinance over there. But there's been no interaction between police and protesters at this point. Everybody keeping a fair distance away. Simply, no reason right now for anybody to step in and people protest. Listening to speakers, listening to music, almost kind of a party atmosphere here. Lots of people in costumes. For these folks that you see walking around here. So that's how things are looking right now in downtown Orlando. More people are just gathering together, speaking their minds. We're going to stick around, try and find more people to speak with and more perspective from the people in this crowd, and check back with you a little later. Probably, again, by Zoom like this, simply because it's not too many cell phones and too many in one place. That's the motherless signal up. So this seems to be like a good way to get in touch. But I hope I've been clear. I hope you've been hearing with strong signal everything that I've been saying. And I'll check in with you a little later and give you an update. Garrett?
Well, Matt, before we let you go, I don't know if you can hear me too well, but have you noticed any counter protesters out there? Anyone speaking in favor of Trump?
No, not at all. In fact, and if it would be anywhere, it would be across the street. I don't see anyone across the street right now. In fact, apologies. On both sides of the street, there are people. I'm going to flip the camera around again. There are people who are at part of this protest. There aren't any. Normally you've got protesters on one side of the street and anti-protesters on the other side of the street. So right now it looks like it's protesters, no change protesters, I should say, on both sides of the street. And there isn't any pocket or group of people that I can see who is supporting the Trump administration out here. The only other element, again, that I can see that talks to support from people driving by. The only other element that I can see out here is law enforcement, police force standing by on their bicycles. But again, at this point, they are simply doing that, standing by just to maintain order. It looks like, in fact, even people are, they're not blocking traffic or anything like that. They're waiting for the crosswalk signal, the sign before crossing. So it just looks like, just a peaceful gathering at this point in downtown LA.
All right, so Fox 35's Matt Trezza joining us live there outside City Hall, and we appreciate you joining us and giving us a look at that. One more quick question before I let you go, and I'm just curious about some of what we're hearing from the speakers. I know you mentioned some people talking, and just wondering who we've heard from and what what their message was.
Yeah, so there is an organization, I believe it's called 50/50 or 54/50. They're the local organizing group that is putting this all together, and they're the ones whose members are speaking from the steps of City Hall right now. The crime organizer is the one who's standing there doing most of the speaking. He's been introducing other speakers one by one who's come up and also share their points. There was a prayer that was led by a woman who is the head of one of the local Hispanic outreach groups. And also, just because I think the national atmosphere that we're seeing, not anything specifically happening in downtown Orlando, she had at the beginning of her speech said, if there is tear gas, if there is disruption of anything like that, we should all get together, we should all help each other. We should all, move in a calm and orderly way, not to trample on each other or any panics or anything like that. But fortunately, it looks like those comments, may not have been needed because again, it's just everybody seems to be very peaceful and very almost a joyful atmosphere here in downtown.
All right, Matt, we appreciate you joining us. We'll check back in with you in a little bit. I am kind of surprised that there aren't, to your point, the counter protesters that we haven't kind of seen, many at this point, at least.
It is still early. Matt mentioned a lot of those rallies kind of popping up, starting at different times across the Central Florida area. But I do remember, last June, during the last No Kings protest day, there were counter protesters that popped up. They were, flying flags, MAGA, Make America Great Again. They were in support of Trump and the administration. Things remained peaceful when everything I saw that involved counter protesters. And like we saw in Matt's report right there, law enforcement at the ready. Standing by. They were fully stocked and out there. Obviously, I know organizers for No Kings have come out and said, keep this peaceful. This is not about, disrupting democracy, more about defending democracy. But obviously, that is always a concern when tensions are high and, people are passionate out there, that things can take a turn. So it is nice to see that law enforcement is there, making sure that the peace is kept in downtown Orlando, at least.
Yeah, and here's another live look at one of those from the Bay Area, and I can't tell you exactly where this one is right now. We'll try to get that one kind of ironed out for you, that location. I do believe that may say Gulfport. We'll try to figure that out. But we're going to take a quick break here on Fox 35 News Plus. We do still have much more to come. Going to hear a couple of from lawmakers in just a couple of minutes. And then at 11 o'clock, we do expect to hear from Congressman Randy Fine, who's going to be joining us on the program live. So keep it here on Fox Local and on YouTube. We've got much more coverage to come of these protests across the country on this Saturday morning.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. Garrett Wymer and Hannah McKenzie here, and this is a live look at the protest in Gulfport. Outside the Gulfport Casino. Once they kind of zoomed in a little bit, we were able to see the wording on the building there. But this is in Gulfport, and looks like a big crowd lining there. We've
Tampa
seen
area.
In the Tampa area,
yeah,
that's
not
right.
Mississippi.
Not Mississippi. No, and we've seen big crowds. We've been monitoring. This is the feed from Fox 13 Tampa Bay and their Skyfox chopper, and we've seen a couple of their feeds now. And one in St. Petersburg, one in Clearwater, and they've had big crowds at their protests as well. So it seems like what they are seeing is very similar to what we are seeing here in our area so far, at least in the ones that we've checked in downtown Orlando and in Castleberry
and Heathrow.
And Heathrow
we got
as
a
well.
live look at the Heathrow one.
Yeah.
Before our chopper moved on.
Right. They've got a long list of places to get to as well.
They do. I think around 80, I believe, in Florida, scheduled events at last check.
Yeah.
And I'm sure others will pop up and maybe merge, and you know how things like that happen.
Yeah, certainly something to keep an eye on as these go, and they all kind of have different times. Coming up at 11 o'clock, we have a couple more that are starting in our area, and that's Cocoa, one in Brevard County, US 1, and Florida 250. And then in Lake County, in Clermont, they're going to be protesting starting at City Hall. They're going to march down 8th Street, and then they're going to wave signs at Center Lake Park.
So that one's going to have some traffic disruptions.
It could.
And if I'm correct, the one in Cocoa, when they held that in June, that was the same location. That is the one we saw counter-protesters at. So it'll be interesting to see if the same people show up.
That is true. That's a good point.
In support of Trump and the administration.
And we might. We'll have to see that. We are also going to check in with the organizers of that Lake County protest and the Brevard County protest a little bit later, probably around 11:30 and 11:45-ish. So we will be able to ask them about that, see if they have seen any of that, and they'll give us a look inside that coming up in just a little bit. But we are hearing obviously a lot today from opponents of President Trump, and so we want to make sure that you also get the other perspective as well. And so in just a couple of minutes here, we're going to talk live with Congressman Randy Fine. I know Congressman Jimmy Petronis held a news conference yesterday, and here's a little bit about what he said. Yeah, here's some of what he said yesterday.
As we go into this weekend, I'd like to give an urgent message to all Floridians who may be traveling this weekend to avoid D.C. during the so-called No Kings Parade. Despite the name, this parade is shaping up to be a gathering of anti-American elements. And I'm just going to call it what it is. I personally think it's just a hate America parade. More often than not, far left gatherings like this have included the participation of the likes of Antifa, pro-Hamas groups, and other extremist factions. What's even more alarming, this comes during a shutdown when the federal government and federal law enforcement, public safety resources already stretched them. And this is all thanks to the Senate Democrats. Chuck Schumer has made a point to fight for illegals, blocking funding for police and federal security agencies, leaving DC less secure. This is deeply irresponsible and dangerous. This parade doesn't celebrate freedom. It threatens public safety. It undermines law and order. It showcases how far some have strayed from American values. So here's my advice. If I were you, I'd just sit on the couch and watch college football this weekend. But some will get out and about. I'm just going to tell you, I'd avoid DC. Between the Schumer shutdown and the risk of political violence, it's simply not worth it. Know the risk. These are not grassroots demonstrations. These likely include paid agitators whose only goal is to create chaos and headlines. So just don't get caught in the crossfire. Stay informed, follow law enforcement's updates closely, and plan accordingly if you're planning to be in DC or live around that area. Pray for our country as families feel the pain of the shutdown and law enforcement remains stretched thin. Take a moment to pray for the well-being, and also pray that the Democrats will come to their senses and open government. Despite Washington's dysfunction, I'll keep standing up for the people in Northwest Florida, our values, and our security.
That was Congressman Petronas speaking yesterday. We're going to take a very quick break here on Fox 35 News Plus. We'll be back in about 40 seconds at the top of the hour. Going to speak live with Congressman Randy Fine, who is joining us live on the program. So keep it here on Fox Local and on YouTube, and we'll be right back after this.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. Garrett Wymer, Hannah McKenzie, and we appreciate you joining us here on this Saturday morning, live on Fox Local and on YouTube. We are tracking these protests across America. This is one right now in Gulfport, outside the Gulfport Casino in Florida. This is one in our area here, and they're so zoomed in, I didn't see where they are exactly right now. We'll try to get a clarification on that. We are also seeing one in Washington, D.C. This is a live look at that one. You can see Senator Adam Schiff, who is speaking right now there at that event. And again, 2,600 of these protests happening across the country. But we want to bring in Congressman Randy Fine, Republican from Florida's 6th District, who joins us live now via Zoom. And Congressman Fine, really appreciate you joining us this morning here on Fox 35 News Plus.
Happy to be here. Thanks for doing this from my car.
The beauties of technology to be able to do that. But let me get your thoughts. We were just kind of given the rundown on what we're seeing here in our area and across the country, and I just want to get your reaction and response to this movement across the country today.
Sure. Well, look, the Hate America rally, which is really what it is part of the Democrats' plan to just bring America to its knees. I mean, no king has ever won 3 presidential elections. Donald Trump has gotten more votes for president of the United States than any person in American history. And the only kings that I worry about today are the Democrats in the Senate who refuse to reopen the government and respect the will of the American voters. You know, they like to say elections have consequences when they're in charge, but apparently when they lose, well, then they just want to call us all a bunch of kings. So they should cut it out, reopen the government, and let us get back to work.
Representative Fine, there has been a lot of blame back and forth, Republicans pointing fingers at Democrats, Democrats pointing fingers at Republicans. Obviously, frustrations are high with all of this. Are you worried at all that any of these protests throughout our country, I mean, 2,600 of them planned, many of them here in Central Florida, are you worried they could escalate, things could turn violent or chaotic?
Well, sure. Look, a meaningful percentage of Democrats believe violence is justified. I mean, it's not 90%, but it's not 1%. And with the shooting of Charlie Kirk and other instances that we've seen, I mean, look, they're all backing a candidate for attorney general in Virginia who talked about killing the children of his opponent. So, yeah, that's absolutely a risk. Look, these people who are out protesting, which are an affiliation of some of the worst groups known to humanity, like I saw in New York, the Communist Party is helping organize these things. These people hate America, and they're showing it today. And I will tell you, it isn't going to work with me and my colleagues. We love America. We're going to keep fighting for it.
Organizers have said, you know, that is not their goal. They want to keep things peaceful today. And in part, you know, those organizers also encouraging participants to wear the inflatable costumes as a way to get away from the anti-government, Antifa look that we've seen, you know, at previous protests with the black ski masks and, you know, the hiding of the faces and the identities. How do you think that works into all of this?
Well, I think it'll be interesting. You know, do they show their faces? I mean, many of the protests that we've seen in recent months, they're not organic. They're not real. They're paid. People are hiding their faces because they don't want people to know who they are. I mean, look, if they want to stand out and protest, they're certainly welcome to do that. They should know, though, in Florida, if you block the road, it's not going to end up well for you. So when you're showing protests in other parts of the country where they block the road, folks in Florida should be aware that if you block the road, you're going to end up sounding like thump thump. So I hope these protests stay peaceful, but you know, with the way the Democrats have behaved, I don't have a whole lot of faith that they will.
Congressman Fine, one of the things that from the protesters and the organizers of these protests that we have had the chance to speak to, one of the things that they kind of have highlighted as one of the reasons for speaking out today is President Trump's use of the National Guard in some American cities. They've in some have called it a military occupation of American cities. How do you respond to that kind of allegation specifically?
I think it's ridiculous. Look, these people that are protesting are supporting foreign invasion. You know, what's been happening in many of these cities is President Trump is going and he is rounding up foreign invaders. These are people who are not American citizens, who have invaded our country, who are here illegally, and he is sending them home. And Democrats have chosen to respond to the protection of Americans' borders with violence, which has prompted President Trump to send in the National Guard. So what you see here is people who are actively aiding and abetting foreign invasion of the United States. They're wrong. That's all I can say. They are wrong. And look, I understand where they're coming from. They believe in a world of open borders where anybody who wants can come to America and then can get all the free stuff they want, free health care, free housing, free money. They think money grows on trees. And frankly, a lot of these people are just complete and total morons because they don't know how the world actually works. But the idea of using the federal government to protect the people rounding up and deporting foreign invaders is 100% justified, and President Trump should do more of it.
What do you think the message should be from Republicans to counter this kind of tagline that the president is acting in some ways as a king? What is the kind of rebuttal for that?
Well, my tagline would be no idiots, because that's what these people are. I mean, the president was elected 3 times to be president. He's gotten more votes to be president of the United States than anyone in American history. And with him, he won all the swing states. We kept the House. We expanded our majority in the Senate. And we support him. The elected government of the United States supports him. The Supreme Court continues to side with him. These people are just angry. The funny thing is, they are the ones who want kings. They want unelected judges to make decisions. They want an auto pen, as we had for the last 4 years, to make decisions. So my response to these things, these people aren't kings. These people who are out protesting are a bunch of idiots.
Congressman Fine, I know you posted on social media recently after the peace deal was announced and floated the idea of repealing the 22nd Amendment that has term limits for the president and limits him to 2 terms. When you have protests like this that say no King's Day, and yet you're talking about wanting to get rid of term limits, do you see the potential concern there from Democrats and others who may say this is kind of the behavior that we are protesting today?
No, I mean, that's more evidence of idiocy. Saying that we should allow the president to run for re-election again is the opposite of a king. A king is someone who has power that they didn't earn. I didn't say Donald Trump should be president for life. I said maybe he should be able to run again. But that's an election that you have to win or lose. So anyone who could interpret that comment as a comment calling for kings is a moron. And I mean, I think that's the problem. We have too many stupid people in America, and those are the people who are out protesting today.
All right. Well, Congressman Randy Fine, a Republican from Florida's 6th District, we appreciate your time this morning and hopping on Zoom with us. I know you've got a busy day, and we appreciate you making time for us here on Fox 35 News Plus.
Thanks for doing it from my car again.
All right. You'll take care.
Thanks.
So we now hearing the Republican perspective, Congressman Petronas, Congressman Fine joining us live there as these protests. Again, it's now after 11 o'clock, so we've got several more in our area that have kind of started up.
Yeah, these really popping up across the country. 2,600 of these No Kings protests. Many of them, last check I saw 80 in our area alone. We've checked in on several of them via our Sky Fox. I mean, the amount of people out there already probably exceeding what most of these organizers even anticipated from the get-go, from the jump. Just masses of people out there. It was interesting to hear Representative Fine, reminding Florida folks out there, if you're going to be in the way of these streets and things like that, that's when things get dangerous. Obviously, you can't be blocking any roads, things like that. But we obviously know that the police deputies are out there on the streets as well, making sure that those kind of things don't happen.
Well, we're going to take a quick break here on Fox 35 News Plus. When we come back, going to check back in with Matt Trezza, who is live in downtown Orlando. We'll see what's going on there. So keep it here on Fox Local and on YouTube, and we'll be right back.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. Garrett Wymer, Hannah McKenzie, and we appreciate you joining us on this Saturday morning, day of protests across the country, 2,600 of them, and a number of them, I think you said about 80 or so in Florida.
In our area alone.
In our area alone,
yeah.
And let's go ahead and check back in with Fox 35's Matt Trezza. He's live downtown where this protest has been going on for over an hour now. And in the couple of times we've talked with Matt, I know the crowd has grown, and it certainly seems like nothing seems to be dying down there.
No, things are still going strong here in downtown Orlando. Let me turn my camera around so that you can see what I'm seeing here. So this is a look at the Dr. Phillips Center right here, and across the street, this is the big crowd that we've got of people gathering around those steps of Orlando City Hall and listening to speakers. I would say there are several thousand people out here. One of the most impressive things, has been a crosswalk, and I just want to point that out because there's nobody blocking the street. There's nobody impeding traffic or anything like that. It's just people cross when the signal allows them to. But other than that, traffic is flowing smoothly across the street. We do have Orlando police, and there are a couple of folks who appear to be supporting the president on his agenda, or they were. That's a lady over there holding a sign that says ICE agents and family. another sign supporting the president. But a very, very small crowd counter-protesters here, and thousands for all part of this No King's Day protest. Another interesting thing is that there is one or two people. There are one or two people over there who are Make America Great Again, that are typical of supporters of President Trump. And the people have not been shouting at them or attacking them in any way. They've been engaging them in conversation. And that, I think, is emblematic of the way that this crowd has been conducting itself, and this protest has been conducted throughout the morning. It's peaceful. It is, joyful. People getting together. People getting together, people listening to the speeches, and trying to unite around a message that is against the Trump administration and its agenda, and try to, as they say, support America and support the Constitution. So that's how things are continuing to look down here, and I'll send it back to you at this point.
Matt, I do have a quick question for you. You mentioned and kind of showed us the small contingent of counter protesters. Has there been any interaction, or are they just kind of doing their own thing over there?
The ones, like I said, the ones standing across the street, the ones across the street have been there standing by themselves, not engaging, not doing anything besides making their voices be heard. And as I said, perhaps I could have out, there were one or two who were down that way, and they were standing among the crowd. But again, it was conversation. People were engaging with each other in discussion. And so that was something encouraging to see, because that's what everybody, I think, on both sides need to interest, an exchange of ideas, an exchange of opinions, with nobody trying to shout the other one down or simply, get their point across to the detriment of the other. It was an exchange of ideas, and that's what a lot of people are saying that they want in this crowd is that exchange, is that First Amendment right to speak your mind and make your voice heard.
And as we saw, Matt showed us a second ago, or not too long ago, if anything does, erupt and get out of control, it looks like OPD is just lining the block on the other side there. They've kind of got their bicycles set up almost as a barricade, Matt, what you showed us last time.
Yeah, I would say, but again, it's not like an overwhelming group of police officers. It doesn't look like there's no heavy equipment out here. I'll throw out the computer. There's no heavy equipment out here. They're not riot or anything like that. They are Orlando Bike Police. So I'd say there's probably a couple of dozen bicycles out there, and maybe 1 or 2 dozen cops. I'd say maybe like 20-ish police. But again, they're standing by. They haven't engaged in any way, and it looks like they're just there to keep the peace. Which is, what they need to be doing. And at this point, no reason yet for them to move in any way or do anything else. I can stand by and make sure that everybody stays safe.
Matt, earlier you mentioned that things could possibly wrap up around noon. I mean, that's only, 45 minutes, less than. It looks like people, though, are still arriving there. This thing might last a lot longer.
Yeah, it certainly might, and as long as they stick to the sidewalks and stick to the public areas, then I don't think there's any reason why they need to be dispersed, as long as they remain peaceful. Like you said, yeah, it's about 45 minutes to noon. This thing doesn't look like it has any inkling of breaking up anytime soon, but we'll stick around and we'll see how it goes. Yeah, I mean, I would say, though, just based on previous rallies and events like these that I've attended, probably I would say by 1 o'clock it should be well wrapped up. But certainly right now, the speakers are up on the dais and giving their speeches. And while that's going on, I don't think anybody's going to.
All right, Fox 35's Matt Trezza. We appreciate you checking in with us this morning here on Fox 35 News Plus, giving us that look at the protest downtown.
Kind of funny to see just over his shoulder there with that inflatable axolotl right over Matt's shoulder there. I was trying to concentrate on what he said, but we've got like for someone dancing right over his shoulder in that big pink inflatable axolotl costume. Now we've got a flamingo too. It's just it is kind of silly to see out there.
You know what? It might be a good thing then that I'm not using the regular news camera, because that tends to attract the people who want to be on television. And in this case, it looks like I'm just talking, doing a selfie or something like that. So
you're incognito, Matt.
Right behind me there. They're just everyone's having fun out here.
A wide range of costumes. Fox 35's Matt Trezza, we appreciate you joining us. But yeah, wide range of costumes out there. It wouldn't be a protest in Florida, I guess, without the flamingo.
Right.
But
got to keep it true to Florida.
And I think that was an interesting point that, when you ask one of the organizers in Seminole County about the reason for that, and, I thought it was, interesting to hear that this was an intentional, decision. It's not just people just showing up in a costume.
Right. It's not for Halloween.
Right.
But to piggyback on what you're saying, Garrett, it's actually I was surprised to hear what the organizer did have to say, because he mentioned that the costumes, the inflatable costumes, were to point silliness, to point at the Trump administration and how bizarre and silly this whole thing is, and that is not what I read about as far as No King's Day protest organizers. They initially put out the reason for the inflatable costumes was kind of to detract away from the Antifa or anti-government black ski mask type look that we have seen pop up in protests, in previous years, and also just in June when we had this last No King's Day protest. So it was kind of different to hear from another perspective on what the reason behind the inflatable costumes were.
Yeah, and we're continuing to see these. You see, the one on the right, that was the one in Tampa. It looks like it is going to a new location. But this one here is in our area. You see Lake Concord Park there. This is Trinity Lake Drive or Trinity Lake Road as well. It looks like
I think it's Triple. Isn't that Triple? Isn't that the Maitland area?
That is in Maitland.
Heathrow?
Yep, sure is. So this is another one here in Central Florida, and seeing a big crowd on the corner there. I'm looking for costumes at this one. I think I might see one, but I can't really tell what it is. But definitely not as many costumes as we saw in downtown Orlando just a couple of minutes ago.
But plenty of signs still, and American flags flying both right side up and upside down. A show of
and both sides of the road there.
The whole entire intersection. People actually crossing the road as well. Yeah.
Yeah, a big crowd out there for that one. We're going to take a break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back after this with more of our coverage of these protests across America on this Saturday morning.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome into Fox 35 News Plus. This is a protest we have not taken a look at yet. This is a live look in Atlanta where they are seeing a big crowd there. I'm not sure the exact location of this one, but No Kings protest in the Atlanta area. You see a lot of signs there, many of them saying specifically No Kings, and as well some props, a lot of flags in that audience, and continuing to see a number of these protests in our area as well. This is a live look in New York City. Let me double check. I don't want to. Yeah, it just went on the move. They just showed someone who was speaking. No, this is Washington, D.C.
Oh, again, apologies for those signs that are going to be popping up. Obviously, we cannot control what you're going to see. This is a protest. There are curse words. There are probably offensive phrases. That's just a reminder.
Yeah, just a good timing for that reminder. I'm sure just a coincidence, a good time to bring that up again. But yes, this is certainly live coverage. You don't always know what you're going to see or hear at these sorts of things. But we are starting to see some counter protesters, as well as we saw in downtown when we checked in with Matt just a little bit ago. And so that kind of adds an additional wrinkle into things when we talk about the safety and security, and also making sure everyone still has the right,
to voice their opinion,
make their voice heard. Exactly, part of what makes our country great. And so let's go ahead and bring in Jamie Copenhaver again, former sheriff's detective and investigator. And Jamie, we appreciate you joining us this morning here on Fox 35 News Plus.
Good to be with you.
So in the time that we first talked, we have seen some of these counter protesters show up. They were in, we could see them in Matt's shot, some of them across the street. We saw a line of officers kind of standing at the ready, some with their, many of them bicycle officers. And so just how does that change things from a law enforcement perspective when you have, you go from having kind of one large crowd, and then you start to see some folks with opposing viewpoints show up?
Yeah, I mean, this has been building up for a couple of weeks now, Garrett, on both sides, the protesters and the counter protesters. So, rest assured, law enforcement has been monitoring social media and trying to get the agitators, if you will, identified on the counter protest side. So, these folks that are going out doing their First Amendment thing, right, protesting on whatever they feel like they need to protest, that's fine. But when you have a group of counter protesters like we're seeing formed now in Orlando, that certainly could cause problems for law enforcement.
Jamie, I do want to add, we were talking a little bit off camera before we brought you in here. We have been talking about the costume aspect of this, the inflatable aspect of this, kind of all morning. And you brought up a very interesting point. I mean, we're used to seeing the ski masks, the bandanas, kind of covering identities, covering faces. Organizers had said they were, asking folks to wear these inflatable costumes instead, pointing, silliness at the Trump administration and President Trump himself, just talking about that aspect of it, and then also just the keeping things light and fun and away from that look. But you said there could be something interesting as well with those costumes. Talk to me about that.
I mean, just coming from a law enforcement expert, it's confusing, right? They look cute, they look fun, they look non-violent, Hannah. But here's the deal: it's still covering their identity, which is fine. I mean, they're allowed to do that. But more overly, if they become agitators or start agitating the counter protesters, and OC spray, or mace as we call it, is utilized by law enforcement to break or tamper that violent clash down, these plastic suits could actually help the agitators not to succumb to the OC spray. So, it's the identity issue. They're hiding their identity, but also if OC spray is deployed, will those suits withstand that OC spray from getting into their nose and mouth?
I mean, you'd think it would definitely, sort of some sort of protection for anyone wearing that suit. Yeah.
I mean, the earlier shot out of Atlanta, something I wanted to point out to you. Take a look at the crowds. Take a look at who's at these protests. I mean, we see a lot of folks over 60. Rest assured, I don't think the 60 and over crowd are going to go out and clash with the counter protesters. They're not going to go out and block streets, but the younger agitators, and I firmly believe this, are being shipped in and paid, are the ones that are going to cause the problems on both sides.
with the law enforcement background, I mean, usually we see, any kind of protest, not just No Kings. Anytime anything happens that someone's upset about over government politics, political figures, or people dying, we see these protests, and they're typically, 9 to 12, 8 to 11. In your opinion, when they start going later and it seems to be the organization, kinds of falls apart, and the people who, maybe had the right idea tend to leave, and these younger folks come in, the ones who do want to shield their identity, is that, in your opinion, where things take a turn and can become dangerous?
Oh, absolutely. And I think that demonstrates by the Orlando Police Department with their bike unit deployed and their emergency response team. They're anticipating trouble after hours. And here's the other thing, Hannah. These agitators are not the ones out that really believe the calls. They're out to agitate, right? But as the day progresses into the night, my biggest concern, alcohol, maybe some narcotics being enjoyed there during the day. And, you end up at 7 or 8 o'clock in downtown Orlando with a bunch of agitators who have been probably drinking. That becomes a problem. So I really encourage the cities of all of our cities, we need to have a tighter guidelines. And it's just my opinion, these things need to be shut off at dark to stop the potential of violence. Because, the dark hour is certainly in favor of the agitators. They're hidden by night.
God forbid any of these protests turn violent, but, if they are to turn that way, obviously a bike patrol is not going to be a strong way to combat any sort of violence. Do you think that's just what we're seeing from Orlando PD, and they've got plans B through Z in addition to this?
Yeah, I can almost assure you the sheriff and the chief of Orlando Police Department are speaking. They probably have a war room set up to where they're one communication center, if you will, to coordinate responses of police units. And you're exactly right. That bike unit's not going to stop if you have a mob of people clashing, but you have the emergency response team on standby, not only by the Orlando Police Department, but also other surrounding cities, and especially the Orange County Sheriff's Office. So, Governor DeSantis came out yesterday with a strong statement. If you're going to show up and create chaos, you're going to go to jail. So, at least the governor's got ahead of this thing, and God forbid we see this massive chaos, but we always have the National Guard on standby should it get to that, which I don't think it will, Hannah, but I think they're on standby.
As far as protests, I myself was in Houston during the George Floyd protests, and I, personally saw things get very crazy very quickly. And it was, the bikes are ditched, the riot gear comes out. When does that change happen? What does law enforcement look for specifically? Obviously, there's protesters, there are counter protesters, but what are some of the turning points or the telltale signs that something could be heading south?
Exactly what you said. When you start seeing shields and helmets, that's time to take notice that law enforcement has identified something that's possibly going to take place. So they're going to transition from those bike units into an emergency response status, if you will, where they're going to don the shields, put on the helmets, and perhaps get out the long batons. But here's the deal. Tempers flare on both sides, right? And everyone has the equal chance to go out and voice their opinion and free speech. But, just coming off of the murder of Charlie Kirk, the rhetoric from both sides of the aisle, these people are fired up on both sides and they want their opinion to be heard. And unfortunately, it turns to violence in some cases, just like we saw during the George Floyd case.
Thankfully, today we've not seen any reports, not gotten any reports of things getting out of hand or anything like that. Things have been peaceful. We even saw some interaction that Matt had kind of alluded to in his last hit with us, where he was talking about some of the folks, the pro-Trump folks who were kind of standing in the crowd, and then we saw a shot of them standing there with their "Make America Great Again" hats, their Turning Point shirts that said freedom, like the ones that Charlie Kirk was wearing when he was shot. And we were seeing there wasn't anything that was anything bad that was happening. Didn't seem like there was any tension. And Jamie, I would think that this is could be a positive sign if we can have something like this that goes off peacefully and even has counter protesters, and we can have that interaction without issues and difficulty, and without law enforcement having to step in.
Yeah, you're 100% correct on that, Garrett. I mean, unfortunately, like we've been talking, these folks have the right to go out and voice their opinions and march and protest. There's no issue with that. And the shot that Matt had showed, that looked peaceful, right? Both sides are kind of like communicating, if you will. But let's turn to social media for a minute. If you turn on a social media page, whether it's Facebook, TikTok, what have you, everyone's a keyboard warrior. And unfortunately, when people start the rhetoric on social media, these counter protesters get amped up, the other and that's when we have the problem. So let's just pray that we continue to see it peaceful. And we need to have a dialogue. If this helps the dialogue between the left and right, gosh, let's have them every day, right? Because we need to have a dialogue and tamper down the tensions, because tensions are high on both sides.
I checked X this morning, and just a quick scroll down there, and I mean, it's always typically a dark path on that social media platform. But yeah, things were already being spewed on both sides of that. Hopefully, those keyboard warriors, as you termed them, stay home. I will say though, you have been watching some of our coverage here today as we've checked in on live protests throughout the country. Is it surprising to you to see just how many people, whether they are in favor of this or against it, counter protesters have shown up?
No, it doesn't surprise me, and nor should it surprise us. I mean, we see our government's been in a shutdown mode now for a couple of weeks. The grocery prices are up, gas is coming down, but everything else is expensive. And whether you're on the left or the right, you have an opinion about all of the above. And I've got to tell you, I mean, the No King's Day protesters are absolutely 100% against the White House and that administration. And then you have the other folks that are just as passionate about the White House and their administration, right? So, it doesn't surprise me to see the amount of people out. I only wish that these people would all show up at the voter polls and actually cast their vote, right? It may change a lot of the dynamics that we're seeing today. And if I can point out, we've got to tamper down our lawmakers and our elected officials. Stop the rhetoric on TV. Let's get this thing tampered down, and it starts with the leadership, in my opinion.
All right, Jamie Copenhaver, former sheriff's detective and investigator. Always good talking with you. We appreciate you joining us this morning here on Fox 35 News Plus.
Thank you both.
And you bring up a good point too about the social media and just how that can kind of add fuel to the fire. But sometimes when you're it's different when you're in person. When you can see someone as a human and have that conversation, I think it goes a long way. And so because it is so easy just to sit behind the keyboard and not think of whoever it is as another person. And so hoping for some, I don't know, paradigm shift or something, for us to see that more eye to eye, person to person. We have disagreements, but you're still a human, and
we can relate to one another. We don't have to hate each other because of our different, theologies or thoughts on politics or whatever it may come down to, Garrett. But yeah, let's hope that kind of stays online and the in-person demonstrations remain peaceful as we've seen so far.
Yeah, easy for things to really get ramped up on
especially with the
social
amount
media.
Of people out there.
Right, yeah, and this is a live look at downtown Orlando and the crowd there, and again, big crowd there. You see on the sidewalk, the plaza in front of City Hall, right across from the Dr. Phillips Center. You can, we know Fox 35's Matt Trezza is down there. We'll check back in with him before things wrap up here. But we're going to take a quick break on Fox 35 News Plus, and we'll be right back after this. Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. This is a live look over downtown Orlando. You can see a big crowd there outside the City Hall Plaza, and some as well on some of the other streets across the street. We know there's a group of counter-protesters. We also saw a small contingent of folks in Make America Great Again caps who were kind of mingling in with that larger group in downtown. Let me give you a live look right now in Atlanta. This is part of the protest there. Also continuing to see protests in Washington, D.C. They are also getting set up for an event there that begins at noon. And I know starting at noon, we'll have coverage of that and other protests across the country from Live Now from Fox. So if you're watching here on Fox Local, you'll be able to see more of that. Now, Hannah, I know you had the chance yesterday to speak with one of our local lawmakers and candidate for mayor in Orlando as well about all this.
Mayoral candidate and Democrat Representative Anna Eskamani. We spoke with her live, actually, while I was filling in with you, Garrett, on your show. So that was interesting to hear everything that she had to say. She was obviously very much involved in the last No Kings Day protest. She checked in with us back then. I asked her if she was going to be attending. She said she would be bouncing around. There's a lot of things going on in Orlando today, including the Come Out with Pride parade. So she said she would be going back and forth between the two, but she does plan to attend the No Kings protest today, where we just saw a live look. So she will at one point be one of the many in that mass, and she did speak to us about that.
In Orlando, I do plan to stop by. Yes, it's a packed day in the district. We also have Orlando Come Out with Pride tomorrow as well, and a few other speaking engagements peppered throughout the day. But I think it's really important to show our unified solidarity for a stronger country, for one that prioritizes the needs of everyday people over those of billionaires. And we'll be celebrating just what makes our country so beautiful and unique, and that is our diversity and our shared commitment to one another. So I'm looking forward to it.
And we just aired Patronus's statement there, kind of a warning. You know, what are your feelings on that? He used some pretty powerful words. He said, you know, avoid the crosshairs.
Yeah, nothing but respect for my former CFO, now a congressman in the Panhandle, Jamie Patronus. We've worked together on projects in the past. I think it's important to avoid elevated rhetoric right now. The environment has been super polarized, and I have been really fortunate to meet Democrats and Republicans alike who are frustrated by what's happening at the national level. They don't see their costs going down. The struggles of operating a small business or paying rent on time are universal. They're not shared. They're not separated by political lines. They're shared by all of us. And so the protests overwhelmingly across the country over the summer under the banner of No Kings Day were very, very peaceful. I have no doubt it will be the same tomorrow as well.
We were just looking at some video from the No Kings Day protest back in June. I know you joined us to talk about that. You were also there. What did you experience? You said things stayed pretty calm in your eyes.
Overwhelmingly so, yes. And I think really it's just about meeting like-minded people who want to make their communities better. I think it's incredibly patriotic to look at your own backyard and say, we can and should do better. We're the greatest country in the world, the richest country in the world, and yet we still have folks who are homeless, who don't have a place to live, who sleep under I-4. We have families who can't afford childcare. We have folks who are deciding not to start families because they can't afford childcare. We have folks who are struggling to find a new job in this market, who want to go back to school but can't afford it. There's just so many everyday challenges with the cost of healthcare in this country, and that's one reason why Democrats in Congress have been holding the line on the Trump administration's agenda, because we have 4.7 million Floridians right now who receive healthcare coverage through healthcare.gov, the Affordable Care Act program, and they're at risk of losing the ability to afford healthcare. They're going to lose their tax credits, their subsidies under the current budget bill. And this is going to be disastrous for Floridians. And whether you're the 4.7 million who rely on the Affordable Care Act or the 4.3 million who are on Medicaid, the changes coming out of the federal government on these domestic issues, on these very basic fundamental needs like healthcare, are bad. And
State Rep Anna Escamani, I should say, a Democrat from Orlando and also a candidate for Orlando mayor, talking about these protests and the kind of situations, circumstances surrounding it. We're going to take a quick break here on Fox 35 News Plus. When we get right back, we are going to check in with one of the protests going on in Lake County. Clermont going to join us live, and then we'll also check in with Coco before we wrap up. So keep it right here. More to come.
Ready to come back.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. Garrett Wymer, Hannah McKenzie. We've been talking about a number of these protests around our region, and we want to get you now to one that is going on in Clermont. This is the one they were starting at City Hall, doing some things, marching as well, waving some flags at the park as well.
It's interesting. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, we just wanted to bring in Sin Doyle from the Lake County Indivisibles group that has put this on. Sin, we appreciate you joining us live from your event going on right now in Clermont.
Well, thank you, Garrett, for having us.
So talk to us about what's going on there today.
Well, Well, we just have a bunch of great democracy warriors out here to fight for their country, to go against the authoritarian wannabe king. We want our country back, and this is a Love America rally.
So it sounds like you have heard that message then that from the Speaker Mike Johnson calling these Hate America rallies, and this is your what's your response?
Love America rally, and he doesn't know what he's talking about. He's talking through his arse.
So now show us a little bit of your event there. I know y'all are having doing some things on the stage over there.
1 second.
So she's taking us closer there, where they're actually performing a song.
Getting ready to sing, I believe. Yes, is our understanding. They're put a little love in your heart, I think, is what she said. They are wanting to sing there and kind of part of their message.
This all happening in Clermont this morning. Lake County, quite a crowd.
You can see many of the signs there.
I know she's the organizer of this, so she's got everyone, I guess, under direction of when to start singing and when to stand still, be quiet.
And you can kind of hear a little bit hard to hear because of just the way Zoom is with the audio and the microphone. But we certainly hear their message there from live in Lake County, and see many of. There you can hear a little bit better now.
As we get closer to the crowd, you can hear there.
It needs to be slightly louder.
All right. Well, we really appreciate them joining us and giving us that look live in Lake County, as they've got a big crowd out there and a nice ceremony going on, and their message there in Clermont, and just to give you a flavor of some of the things that we're seeing today.
And that's interesting because, Garrett, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that's one of the ones where it was planned a march. So it's not just a stagnant sort of meet here. It's like they actually plan on doing a little walk, a little movement. They had songs organized. They had speakers that were going to be out there. It wasn't just a kind of gather and let's see what happens. They actually had an itinerary of what they wanted to achieve and what they wanted to get out there, and that's in Clermont.
Yeah, and we also are getting ready to check in with another one of the protests going on in Brevard County. Michael Nyatt is with the Brevard County Progressives and is at the event in Cocoa right now. Michael, are you able to hear me? It looks like you are muted in Zoom, Michael. If you don't mind unmuting, then we'll be able to take you live here on Fox 35 News Plus. Michael may not be able to hear me. We were trying to get you to that event in Cocoa. I'm also trying to get that super to go, and it just does not want to go all the way across the screen. So
you've also got to take into consideration with the large amount of people packed into small places, and a huge turnout for these events. Cell service and signal is not the best in all of these spots, so things are a little spotty. So we appreciate you for bearing with us. We even saw that with our own reporter Matt Trezza, who was out there in downtown Orlando.
Speaking
of him, he joins us again. Yeah, so bear with us because we can not always hear everything. But hey, checking in with Matt Trezza one more time. Hey Matt, anything new to tell us about?
Yeah, well, it looks like it's just about noon, and it looks like things are starting to wrap up here. The people are dispersing, the crowd is beginning to disperse, the speakers have finished speaking, but it'll probably be, I'd say, probably around a half hour. So definitely within an hour, this place is going to be all clear. But probably within a half hour, people are going to clear out. Other events going on around Orlando anyway. Starting in, I think, around noon, we've got the Orlando come out with Pride at Lake Fiona Park. So I would assume that a lot of the folks who are here are going to be just walking up the street to Lake Fiona Park and going that way. But it's been very peaceful, very bright and sunny morning. A lot of people out here just listening to the speeches, fellowshipping with people who also who are against President Trump and his agenda, and making their voices heard.
Matt, when we checked in with you last, there were some counter protesters out there, and they weren't really stationed just across the street. They were in the masses of kind of in the mix of everything with their MAGA hats, and some of them had Turning Point T-shirts on. As far as counter protesters, have you seen any more arrive or any kind of interaction or clashes between the two sides?
Yeah, so I'm going to show you what I was talking about. So there's a table of counter protesters here from Turning Point USA's chapter at UCF. That is them sitting at that table right over there, right next to these folks who say, holding the sign that says "No Kings, No Trump." That is their table right there. And I talked with a couple of them, and I mean, it's encouraging to hear people talk about how everyone is trying to respect the First Amendment. Everyone's trying to make their voice heard. How they said, when I talked with a couple of them, that they had some good conversations with people, and everybody, was trying to aim for both, getting their voice out there and listening to the other person. And I think that is one of the main and great takeaways from this should be the respecting of other people's ideas and opinions. You have a true diversity of them out here. And another thing that was great to see is that, both among the protesters, those who are not supporting the president or his agenda, and the counter protesters there at that table, everyone's wearing red, white, and blue. And that's another thing just to point out about how, truly, even though there's a tremendous diversity of opinion, when it comes down to it, we're all Americans, and we all, no matter in what way we perceive it to be, want what is best for the country.
A good message there, and a good place, I think, to end it. Matt Trezza, we appreciate your reporting from downtown Orlando, and thanks for your time out there, giving us a taste of what's happening out there this morning. We appreciate it.
Certainly, we stay well.
All right. And we were hoping to check in with Michael in Brevard County. Let me see if he is there and able to hear me. Michael, are you able to hear me now?
Is he still on mute?
Yeah, he's still muted.
Michael,
I don't
if you
think
can
we're
hear
going to be
us,
able to.
maybe unmute yourself.
I don't think we're going to be able to check in with him, but we got you everywhere we could in these 2 hours. We got you to let's see, Orlando, Castleberry, Clermont,
Heathrow, Maitland area.
Heathrow and Maitland, Washington, D.C., New York City, Atlanta. These protests continuing throughout the afternoon. As I mentioned, some of them also do have speakers. Yep. I know in Washington, D.C., they're getting ready to start the speaking program at noon. So we're going to hand things off to Live now with more of their coverage of these protests across the country. But we appreciate you joining us as we took you around Florida and talked to many of the organizers, and also got some other perspectives as well from security, political analyst, and Congressman Randy Fine as well, joining us live here on the program. So Hannah, appreciate you joining me this morning here on Fox 35 News Plus, and I appreciate y'all joining us on the live stream as well. So have a great rest of your day. You can keep it here on Fox Local. We've got more coverage for you coming up.
You're not welcome in this town. You're not welcome in this town. No king. No king. Remove the regime. Remove the regime. No king. No king. Remove the regime. Remove the regime. Remove the regime. Donald Trump is his name.